Howdy, Craig Summers here. Today I want to talk about some basic shooting fundamentals. This is regardless of whatever you're going to shoot for. If you're coming to take one of our LTC classes, or if you're going to go shoot go out to the range, it doesn't matter. This is just some good basic good shooting fundamentals. And before you begin any type of activities with firearms, there are 4 universal firearm safety rules that you need to remember, and they apply everywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at, and they're not necessarily in order, but as long as you can remember the 4, you're good to go. So number 1 is we're going to treat all firearms as if they are always loaded all the time. Number 2, we're going to keep our finger off the trigger until our sights are on target and we are ready to shoot. Number 3, we're going to identify our target, or know your target, what's in front of it and what is behind it. And then last but certainly not least is we are not going to let our muzzle cross anything we are not willing to destroy. I want you to think that you have a lightsaber coming out of the end of your muzzle, and anything that your muzzle crosses, that lightsaber is going to cut off or destroy. So those are the 4 firearm safety rules, guys. And before we go any further, I also want to talk about some safety stuff. Just some good rules of thumb. First, you need a good pair of safety glasses. It doesn't really matter, but just something especially that covers the side of your eye to keep stuff from coming in. I also recommend a good baseball hat. That definitely protects brass when you're shooting in a group. Either the person to the right or to the left, that brass, as it gets ejected, it comes down, and that baseball hat just kind of protects your face and makes sure nothing gets behind the glasses or anything like that. And then certainly not to be left out is a good set of hearing protection. I personally like a good set of electronic hearing muffs. That way you can kind of hear what's going on around you, but as soon as those firearms start going off, it will protect your hearing. Also, a good set of earplugs, foam earplugs, is good to have. Not an issue with that. And then a good set of footwear, closed-toed shoes, a good athletic shoe, a good boot, something with a good rubber sole where we can get some traction. We definitely don't want any type of flip-flops or open-toed shoes or sandals that you ladies like to wear, high heels, things like that. Just good safety calls. So next we will let's go over stance and proceed from there. Next I want to talk about a good stance for shooting. So what we're going to do is we're going to square up to our target. I'm about 4 or 5 yards away, and we're going to get our feet shoulder width apart, a good athletic stance, and you can offset them a little bit, kind of like you're about to get in a fist fight with somebody. But we're going to get a good athletic stance, get a little bit of bend in the knees, and then we're going to bend forward just a little bit at the waist. All right, and what that's going to do is I'm ready to shoot. All right, my arms are forward. I'm going to drive in just a little bit. All right, and that's going to basically put what I like to call, for lack of better terms, going to put some ass behind the gun. Make sure that gun has enough resistance behind it to where it cycles properly. So a good shooting foundation. Next, I want to talk about a good grip. So I am right-handed, and this goes with all semi-automatic firearms. What I like to do is get a good grip on the gun, and if you see, we have our back strap right there. I want to get as high up on the back of that gun as I can. We're going to wrap around with these 3 fingers, and then with our shooting finger, or index finger, we are going to put it on the side of the gun. That's referred to indexing. You'll hear me say multiple times in classes, get your finger off the trigger, get your finger off the trigger, get your finger off the trigger. That's where I want you to put it, right there. Because remember, we don't put our finger on the trigger until our sights are on target and we're ready to shoot. So we're going to index that gun, put our finger on the slide, and then on the back side, there's this little void right here, this little opening. What we're going to do is we're going to take the meaty part of our other hand, we're going to put it in right there. All right, we're going to wrap around with the other 4 fingers, and then that thumb is going to go on the side. So we're going to have both thumbs forward. All right, this is kind of what it looks like from both sides right there, so y'all can get a good look at that. If you're a lefty, all right, same rules apply. We're going to get a good grip. Finger is going to index. We have an opening on the side. Your right hand is going to fill that void. Thumbs forward, wrap the other 4 fingers around. Okay, so same concept. The only difference if you're shooting a revolver is instead of your non-dominant thumb on the slide, you're basically going to wrap it around. All right, because we've with the revolver we have the rotating cylinder that we don't want to obstruct or get in its way. Now let's put on our safety gear. Let's do a little bit of shooting. Let's talk a little bit about trigger squeeze and sight alignment and sight picture. All right, put my earmuffs on. Like I said, I'm about 4 or 5 yards away. All right, so we're gonna get a good stance. All right, good athletic stance. We're gonna grab that gun and we're gonna get a good grip, as I talked about. Now, almost all pistols are gonna have some type of sight on there. I like to shoot an XS big dot where we have a big front sight and then a small rear sight, and all you have to do is just put that front sight on your target and dot the eye. Most other handguns have a traditional front dot and 2 rear, and the concept is the same regardless of what type of sight you have. You put your front sight on the target, align the rear sight with the front sight, and then focus on your front sight and have a good squeeze to the rear. A good sight alignment is I want that front sight and the rear sight, I want them level with each other, and then I want the equal amount of space or daylight on the 2 sides, the 2 rear sights, equal amount of daylight on the sides as it regards to the front sight. Now I want you to notice the front sight is going to be clear. That's what we're going to focus on. The target's going to be a little blurry. The rear sight's going to be a little blurry. Our front sight is what we're going to focus on. So you'll hear me say a lot of times, front sight, front sight, front sight. That's what I want people to focus on. So we identify our target. We put the front sight on the target. We line the back sight up with that front sight. We have made the decision to shoot. I'm going to put my finger on the trigger and I'm going to gradually squeeze. I'm going to squeeze the trigger to the rear. I'm going to keep it there. All right, and we're going to follow through with that shot. So I've still got the same sight picture. I'm still looking at my front sight. I'm going to let that trigger reset. All right. And then we can come back off. One of the things I want you to notice is that if we focus on that front sight and we have a good squeeze to the rear, that round is going to go exactly where you want it to go. All right, so we're going to do it again real quick. We're going to get a good grip. We're going to get a good stance. All right, we're going to put our front sight on the target. All right, put our front sight on the target, align the rear sight, focus on the front sight, put our finger on the trigger, and we're going to squeeze. All right, we're going to follow through by continuing to focus on that front sight. That trigger is pressed to the rear, and I'm going to let it go and reset. If I need to, I can follow up, but if not, we'll bring it back in and then we can reholster. Now, as I said, after we shoot, we want to put a good follow through. So we're going to keep our focus on that front sight. I'll show you what that looks like. So I just fired 2 shots. I'm about 5 yards away, which isn't that great. But I want you to notice, if you put that front sight where it's supposed to go, your rounds are going to go where they're supposed to go. But like I said, even with a lot of sports, with baseball or with golf, as soon as you make that contact, a lot of people want to try to pull their head and see where it's going. It's the same concept in shooting. We're going to stay focused on that front sight. That's how, it's almost the same thing as keeping your head down, all right? So we're going to stay focused on that front sight. We're going to keep our head down, and that's how we're going to follow through. Appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to put a link in the description box below for one of our local LTC classes if y'all want to get a little bit more training. I'm going to have another link for a buddy's schools, a former recon Marine, that you're more than welcome to check out. But I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thank you.